Let's talk about Austin and possibly America's first serial killer. This monster's reign of terror around Austin started December 30th of 1884 and lasted until December 24th of 1885. Let's talk about his victims first and then how Austin responded to it. The first victim was a lady named Molly Smith, who died on December 30th of 1884. The second, Eliza Shelley, on May 7th of 1885. Irene Cross on May 23rd, 1885. His youngest victim was 11-year-old Mary Ramey, who died August 30th, 1885. Gracie Vance and Orange Washington, his only male victim, died September 28th of 1885. December 24th, 1885, Susan Hancock, and Eula Phillips, December 24th, 1885 as well. Part 2 of Austin's first serial killer, how we responded. It was the late 1800s, so for most part it was a very garbagey response we had. Not only did our governor at the time, Governor Ireland, hire the wrong detective agency from Chicago. At one point we decided we'd round up 400 of Austin's worst criminals because surely by process of elimination we would have gathered up the right person, right? Wrong. Most of the victims that survived the violence of the servant Girl Annihilator described him as a white man in blackface or having the hands of a white man. Guess what color hands weren't arrested during that 400-person roundup? 10 years later, they put up some moon towers to help combat violence, too. If you've ever watched Dazed and Confused, Party at the Moon Tower, that's the type of moon tower they're talking about. Part 3, how this guy might be Jack the Ripper. Part 3, how the servant Girl Annihilator and Jack the Ripper could be the same person. Note to all you hardcore ripperologists out there. I consider myself a very amateur level ripperologist. I know there are thousands of theories. This just happens to be mine, and it's kind of shared with a few other historians too. So, I mean, maybe, who knows at this point. First, let's talk about the timeline. We know that the servant Girl Annihilator's last canonical kills was December 24th of 1885, which in theory gives one just enough time to wrap up your affairs here in Austin, hop on a boat, go across the ocean, land in London, scooch over to Whitechapel just in time to start killing sex workers in August of 1888. Second is, there is a parallel in the victimology. For the most part, the servant Girl Annihilator went after female servant workers, and we know that Jack the Ripper exclusively went after female sex workers. Now let's talk about the escalation of the violence. And murderinos, before you come for me in the comments, I know serial killers don't change their MO, but hear me out from a historical standpoint. In the late 1800s, most crimes were committed with weapons of opportunity, and most homes were filled with weapons of opportunity because we were still very much in a survival-based landscape. So we had things like axes and ice picks and other weaponry around our house for basic survival and protection. So while it's true that spree/serial killers don't change their MO, they will articulate based on availability of weaponry and what they've learned for previous crimes. Molly Smith's body was a horrific sight. I can't go into too much detail on TikTok because they'll take down the video. But trust me, it was gruesome, and Google is free. But as the servant Girl Annihilator went forward with his reign of terror, he began to get much more articulate and intentional and manipulative with his craft. Again, can't really talk about it on TikTok, but Google is free. And we know that Jack the Ripper was so deft with his knife work that until he gave himself the moniker of Jack the Ripper by writing into the London newspaper, which is major Zodiac killer vibes, I might add, people would refer to him as either the surgeon or the butcher because of how deft he was with his knife work. So again, I'm not a professional ripperologist, I'm a tour guide, I talk to ghosts on the internet for a living, and I consider myself an amateur ripperologist, but I would love to hear more about it in the comments, and let me know if you guys want more stuff like that.